Welcome back to my podcast, Filmmaking, actually. Ta-da! Today, I'm really excited to share with you a little bit of a from the vault, if you will, for all my fellow Swifties out there. So we used to do these monthly panels in our virtual space. We had a little virtual event room. Unfortunately, the platform shut down, so we haven't been able to figure out how to pick them back up. But we had a ton of great content with some really amazing guests, and I want to make that content more available to people. The full video is available on our Patreon, but I wanted to include some excerpted audio segments for you. This panel is all about script supervising, and it includes things like, does page count actually equal runtime? The age-old Hollywood question. Anyway, I will let our incredible guest Shea tell you all about it. Please enjoy.
Hi, everyone. Welcome. I'm Koura. I'll start with a little introduction to myself and the space, and then I will invite our wonderful guests to introduce themselves. My name is Koura, like I just said. I'm a light-skinned woman with dark brown hair, currently with bangs and straight down to my shoulders. I'm wearing a brown scoop neck top with a sparkly Jewish star necklace, and there's some framed artwork on the wall behind me. Thank you for being here. And now we're going to dive into our event and our wonderful guest, Shea, who has so generously offered her time to speak to us about the wonderful world of script supervising.
Hi, everyone. You probably want to know a little bit about me. I'm an 18-year script supervisor veteran. I am also a member of the Writers Guild of America. Walk the picket line. I am also, besides being a writer for TV and film, I'm also a published short story author, and I have an audiobook of my short stories out. I direct. I have directed 3 short films and a 7-episode web series, all of which have been in numerous film festivals, winning numerous awards, as have some of my scripts. And basically, that's the creative end that I focus on, is the writing and producing and directing. And the day job is the script supervising, which has been a very great day job. I love being on set. Frustrating at times because you're not the creative force while you're script supervising, but you are one of the most important team members there in support of all the creatives. Born in Cairo, Egypt, my parents were living there. My dad was working there, and my mom just went, I'm 8 months pregnant. I have a 2-year-old. I'm not getting on an airplane. Thank you very much. Grew up on the East Coast and slowly made my way west. I have a master's in TV and film, and I've been part of the Warner Brothers TV directing workshop, as well as Ryan Murphy's Half Foundation directing workshop. So that's kind of me in a nutshell.
Amazing. Thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate your time. I know it's valuable. Do you mind giving a visual description of yourself in case anyone in the audience is visually impaired and for the recording that is done later?
Absolutely. I am a white female over the age of 50, short, natural curly hair, big eyes. I'm wearing a bright red shirt with white embroidery on it. And I think that's about it. I have hazel eyes, if that makes a difference. Sometimes they're green, sometimes they're blue.
Amazing. Awesome. So let's just dive right in. What is the 101 of script supervising? What is kind of the nuts and bolts of that profession? Because you can sum that up in 2 seconds, right?
Sure. Okay. Script supervising is one of the most important crew positions on a film or television set, yet it is one of the least understood positions by other members of the crew and even the director. I've had directors go, I'm not sure exactly everything you do, but I know I need you, so welcome. That kind of thing. A lot of people don't have a clue how many balls we juggle. We're a film technician, and we work with the director, assisting the director. I'm also a liaison interacting with all the other departments on the set, which includes the actors, the writers, editorial, the producers. So not just the crew people on set, but also, other than the first AD, my position is one of the few, maybe the only other position that interacts with each and every department on the production. We deal with prep, we deal with shooting, we deal with wrap, and sometimes weeks later needing to interact with editorial about things that we need to go back and get. So it's not just, oh, I show up, I'm there for the 12 hours, 14 hours, whatever, and then at the end of the day, your job is done. This is an all-encompassing job for those who have any thought of doing it. It's really gratifying, but it's damn hard work. That's the overview, kind of. And if you want, I can break down a little bit of what we do in each aspect of the production, the prep, the shooting, and the wrap, or we can just leave that for later with your questions.
No, I appreciate that. And that it's true. There's very few people on set that are so multidimensional when it comes to their focus and it comes to their departmental interactions. And script supervisor is absolutely, they literally have to connect with everybody. Just to kind of give sort of like stepping stones, let's maybe go over the basic, if you're posting a job ad, what would be the sort of main function of a script supervisor for pre-pro production and post?
Well, in prep, you're breaking down the script. At the same time, your first AD is breaking down the script, but we break the script down for different reasons. The AD is trying to figure out how best to schedule it, the most efficient, cost efficient, time efficient, making sure all the bells and whistles, everything you need are there. We break it down from coming at it from a different angle for different purposes. We break it down and focus on continuity of story, action, and also story time. And we generate forms during our prep that once they're approved, and the information is always changing, as everyone knows, you're forever getting blue drafts and orange drafts and, double white drafts. And each time a new draft comes out, whether it's one revised page or if it's a full script revision, we have to re-prep that. And that's one reason why when you see asterisks on the right side of a page, that's denoting where the change from the previous draft was made, which makes every department's job easier to just be able to adjust their breakdowns. So there's a lot of information that we're breaking down that has to be approved by the director and the writers and the producers, because there's question marks. As you all know, everything's not perfectly laid out in a script. So once that's all approved and our various forms are as complete as they can be for that draft of the script, the department heads will get those forms. For department heads, the most important information is story shoot days, or story script days, I should say. It has nothing to do with what day you're shooting it. It's what day in the story or what day in the life of the characters is that scene happening. Is it, first of all, day, night, but then you also have to figure out what day in the story it is. Especially, that gets a little more difficult if you're doing flashbacks or flash forwards. Is it a dream sequence or whatnot? But that is important when you're dealing with makeup and hair and wardrobe, because you shoot out of order. So the first scene up that you're shooting might be day 5 of the story. They have to be dressed and made up a certain way. And then the second scene that you're shooting that day can be scene 20. They're back changing wardrobe, makeup. So, that has to be tracked.
Amazing. And then production obviously is the probably most involved. I'll kind of jump ahead a little bit because this was going to be a question I was going to ask towards the end, but I'm thinking maybe it might actually work at this juncture. If someone is looking at, they're a small production.
Okay.
Maybe they're low budget, maybe they're just a student film, or I don't know, when you're a student, you should do things by the book so you can learn. But you're newer, you're kind of starting out, you're working with a smaller budget, limited resources. What are some functions, like maybe you can't have a full designated script supervisor? What's kind of like the bare minimum of the things that you need someone to be paying attention to when you're on set?
Script supervising is 200% focus all day, every day on what's happening on set. Student project, ultra low budget. Someone has to, a non-union project, someone has to do the story breakdown. That's done in prep. So if you want to limit the number of days you might need a script supervisor, then the writer should do that, or the director. But someone will need to do that. Unless it all takes place in one day and there's no wardrobe change or makeup change, that needs to be done so your other departments can do their job correctly. In terms of on-set during the day, you're responsible for writing down every shot that every camera does and what the action is, what the eye line is for the actors. Are they saying the words correctly? When do they stand up? When do they sit down? Do they turn camera right? Do they turn camera left? Because if those things aren't matched, it makes it very difficult for your editor to edit something that makes sense, and it limits their choices as to which shots they can use, or they have to cut around certain parts of the scene. They can't cut to the close-up until after they stand up because they stood up at two different places. So you have to make a choice. If I have 10 cameras rolling, or not me, but if the production is rolling 10 cameras on a scene, I'm writing down a shot description for each one of those cameras. I'm timing the shot. I'm keeping track of the sound roll, the camera roll, which circle takes the director likes or doesn't like. I'm making sure the dialogue is being said correctly. I'm making sure that before we start rolling, I'm the backup for all the other departments for their continuity. They're responsible for their own continuity, but I back them up. And I've caught things at times. At the same time, the director is saying, well, were they looking camera right or camera left? And now that we've moved the camera, which direction should they be crossing in on? All those things you're watching and making notes of. So it's not something that you can go, oh, okay, here's the slate number. Now I'm going to run off and help wardrobe. That doesn't help your editorial. That doesn't help your director to know if they got all the shots that the director needs. Pretty much on your shoot days, have someone who can be dedicated to script supervising as much as they know how to do. Being on set and being focused on what is being filmed is the most important.
So basically not much. You're not busy when you're on set.
We're the busiest person on set other than the first AD. That's just the way it is. And we're a department of one. Yep. Unfortunately.
Yeah, it's a pretty big job. You touched on this a little bit, but you mentioned that like each department's job is, their own continuity. Like wardrobe isn't just going to sit there scrolling Facebook while script supervisor.
You'd be surprised. Sorry.
They're not supposed to.
Yes. There you go. There you go.
These events are meant to be educational. You're not supposed to be scrolling on your phone, wardrobe.
Or anyone. I'm not supposed to be scrolling on my phone. I'm not supposed to be checking email. Each department, and the really good people in any department, they really are focused on their job and are really aware of the importance of continuity. Mistakes happen. I make mistakes. You're always under time constraint, as we all know. Shooting, it's always looking at the clock. And people just simply make mistakes. And that's why you have the backup. But each department have multiple people in their department. Wardrobe, even on lower budgeted productions, usually have 2 people, same thing with makeup, same thing with hair, all of those things. And the problem is you're working so fast sometimes. It's like tracking, oh, which scene is this? Did he give her the locket yet? Because once she gets it, she never takes it off. Or which side of the face was the scar on? Was it over the left eyebrow or the right eyebrow? Things can go wrong. You don't want to have to reshoot. You know, I was on this show and I was subbing for the day. So I just stepped in, taking over for a person who was sick, and they were shooting this scene, and then the actors in the scene were getting on a plane to go to a location, and so we they had to leave by a certain time. The actor comes in, it's a very simple walk and talk, and I look at him and they did one take, and I kind of went up to the first AD and I said, I know you're in a rush to get him out, but I think he's in the wrong wardrobe. He said, what? And he wasn't trying to say, oh, no. He actually took the time, the extra 5 minutes. And sure enough, the actor was in a different gray suit than he should have been in. It was still a gray suit, and it was just a mistake. They were wrapping wardrobe to pack to send to this location. It took 5 minutes. He changed right there. He didn't go back to his trailer or anything like that. The actor goes, great, bring it up here. I'll change in 2 minutes. And then we finished the scene. But shit happens. It just does. And that's where I was their backup. I am the backup, and I'm your eyes and ears, and I'm willing to help you all I can. And then when people bring things up to me, are you sure he was? I go, please. They go, I don't want to step on your toes. I go, step on my toes. Things slip through my fingers. So it's really important for communication and not to get defensive about, oh, they're telling me I'm wrong. It's like, no, I want to take that extra 30 seconds to make sure it's right, because reshooting a month later is exorbitantly expensive.
My first feature, there's a scene where one of the actors he's talking to the girl, and then he leaves and he goes and changes his outfit, like in the movie. Because when we were editing, like when we were going through the footage, we were thankfully still on location, still with the actor. He was leaving for his flight. Everyone else had left. He just had a flight a day later, just because when his flight was available. We realized that an entire sequence was it was the same day, and it was in one location and another location. The whole second location, he's in the completely wrong outfit. And I almost cried. And it was the actor. He goes, can't you just film me changing my shirt? Can't I just go change my shirt? And I was like, sure. And it worked, because he kind of was asking the girl out. So, he walks in, and then he kind of like does and he goes and he tries on a couple shirts, find ones he likes, and he walks off. And it's a great moment in the movie, and it only exists because in that case, it was wardrobe and scripty that messed up, but, and me as the director, we all messed up. It was a rough day, but, it's just this moment in the movie that literally exists because we screwed up and we didn't have the resources to go back. So yeah, those 30 seconds from script, whew, lifesaver.
You have to understand filmmaking. I think with the advent of these computer programs, people are thinking you can just sit down and learn the program and you'll know how to be a script supervisor. The program is just like learning how to write. That it's a way of processing information. It's not the knowledge and the filmmaking knowledge that a script supervisor needs in order to really be 100% in the job, because we have to understand eyeline, direction. We have to understand the story, because we're on script. And sometimes if an actor changes a tenth of a word in a sentence, it can change the meaning of the sentence. And you can save the production money if you catch that. Sometimes, turn to the writers. This is what they said. It changes the meaning. Are you okay with it? Some will say, oh, yeah, it doesn't matter. Crew and production personnel that are working off the location, a lot of times it does. They have to go into a looping session or ADR and that costs a lot of money. So, we're trying to help production and everyone. So you have to understand film. A lot of times the DP will come to the script supervisor and start asking questions like, do you remember which direction the dolly was moving when we finish that? Because our transition needs to be the opposite direction or the same direction and all of that. You have to understand a lot more than just learning a computer program.
Whenever I see someone who just looks and they go, "Oh yeah, it's a 6-page script, so it's a 6-minute film," I'm like, "Have you ever made a movie in your life?"
That's something that we will do as well, which is separate from the, it's not part of our prep. It's not part of our regular work. It's something that's negotiated separately, but that's to time script. It's as simple as in Gone with the Wind, the scene said Atlanta burns. And I think it was over 5 minutes of the film of Atlanta burning. One sentence in the script. Yes, people will go, oh, 1 page of script equals 1 minute. Well, I was on a TV show and the main character and her best friends were motor mouths in scenes. So they would have a 4-page dialogue scene between the two of them. And they did pay me to do timings of each of the script. And the writers were complaining, well, Shea's timing is way off. It's a 58-page script and she's saying it's 45 minutes timed. The producer said and looked at the finished timing of the shows and Shea's timing. I was always within like a minute to half a minute. And it was basically, on an unknown script, you don't know what the characters are doing. But, I was in the 2nd season of the show and I said, when you see these 2 characters, it's 4 pages. A single take will be 1:40. So you can't go by that generalized rule of, 1 minute per page.
What's on the page?
Yes, there you go. That's the answer.
Yeah. The "he dances" line in Risky Business is another sort of like classic.
Right.
Like, okay, yeah, that is a hill that I die on in arguments with people because they're like, yeah. Anyway, no, that's really important too. I was working with a production team once that they were wanting to put together this feature film. They're like, the script's too long. It's going to be too long. And I'm like, it's going to be about an hour and a half. And they were like, no way. This, it's 120 pages. This is a 2-hour movie. And I was like, okay. So I went through because I like my scripts. I double space between all the scenes. I don't like line breaks. So I'll move things to another page just to keep it clean for reading. And it was a director's draft. So it had a little bit of stage direction and stuff like that in it. I literally went through, I got rid of all the double spacing. I got rid of all the clean page breaks. I got rid of a lot of the stage. It was still going to happen. It just wasn't on the page anymore.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And I gave them a 90-page script and they were like, "Oh, this is so much better. Thank you." And I was like, it's the exact same script.
But yes, they were just looking at the page. West Wing was, I think Michael had put in the chat that Gilmore Girls was that way. Absolutely. Yeah. Another big one was West Wing. Those scripts were 90 pages long, but they were all walk and talks,
Yeah.
So they would just like blah, 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 blah. And then you have some actors who speak so slowly. And so if that's how that character is being portrayed by the actor, then you make that adjustment. Oh, this 1-page dialogue scene is actually going to be 1:20 or whatever. And you learn that as you work with the actors. But if you get a pilot script, for example, which isn't cast yet, then you just kind of have to read the dialogue 3 or 4 different ways and time it and kind of see what seems best. And then it's a little guesstimate.
I always say that directors are the keeper of the story, but I think script supervisors would make or do make excellent directors because they have to have such an innate sense of story and understand beyond the words on the page. They do more than just take out a ruler and every 8th page draw a line. They have to like actually really understand what's happening. I'm just going to assume that everybody's seen Barbie by this point. There's a scene where she's at the bus stop. Barbie's at a bus stop, and there's an older woman sitting next to her, and they have this sort of interaction. And then Barbie's kind of like looking around at humanity. The editors were like, why, what? Like, let's just cut this. Like, it's just drags. And Greta Gerwig replied, she said, if I take this scene out, I don't know what the movie's about anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Like that one little moment was so meaningful. I think that's also the difference between like independent film and studio film in my experience, is that there is a lot more focus on the story, and it's not so much about why is this here, cut it, speed it, let's go. It's about, what, these two friends are going to just start hysterically laughing, and they're going to lay on the floor and laugh for 30 seconds. And it's going to be iconic. I guess what I'm trying to say is working with a good script supervisor who understands the story and understands, like you said, sometimes it's super quick. We've also had scripts that are long that turn
Mm-hmm.
into 9-minute movies without even cutting. It's just like
Yeah.
whoop, that is just dialogue and that's it. Or just moments and they're just quick. Working with someone who really understands that, I think, is really important. So yay. Thank you for all of this insight. I just have a couple more questions and then we'll go ahead and open it up if anyone else has questions. Let's say someone wants to get started as a script supervisor. What are some personality and capability traits that might be beneficial to them, and how should they go about doing that?
You need to be very detailed oriented and be able to multitask. You are not just doing one thing. Oh, I'm just looking at the cameras and writing down the camera shot. As soon as they yell action, you're timing it, you're writing down the camera shots, you're making sure the dialogue is said correctly, you're watching the continuity. You have to understand camera movements and camera, but in terms of your personality, be able to multitask, be able to focus. There's a lot of stuff going around and you have to focus, and you need to be detailed oriented. But personally, I think the one thing that makes good script supervisor versus a really great script supervisor is that understanding of film production and story. A lot of times they'll come in and say 2 takes ago they were more subdued and this last take was angry, but I want the reverse to have both. They might have different continuity in those 2 setups. So you can say, well, in this one, remember I told you she turned camera right and everything else she turned camera left. So if you want to get something that you can edit in case you want to use that more excitable version, then she needs to turn camera right at that intensity. I'm assuming most of you have been on set at one point or the other. It's a long, hard day. Your base day is 12 hours. That's not counting lunch. It's not drive time. And it's not counting if you're going into OT. You may be out in the rain. You may be out in the cold. You may be in on a stage and you may not be. And, I love production. I still get that little kind of sizzle when I step on a set, when I see the magic of Hollywood. So yes, there's days or that all-nighter when you're just like going, has the sun risen yet? But the thing is, if you don't like hard work, any job on a production crew is probably not the best job for you.
Yeah. Very true. Yeah, I remember the very first time I walked onto like a Hollywood set, like trucks and, like base camp, like Hollywood set. And I was just like, I'm getting paid to be here. Like, this is my job.
Like, isn't this cool? I mean, I drive on to Paramount or something like that, and I just go, I get to drive on.
Drop your driver's license to the front gate guy, and he checks you off, and you go through, and you're
and
just
you
like,
go through. And so having a love of not just movies, but the process of movie making, no matter what aspect you want to do, is super important in this business, because as cool as it is, aren't we lucky? Bottom line, it's damn hard work, no matter what department you are in. And sometimes the lower departments work harder and longer than the people who are in more elevated positions. So love it, and then come join us.
Exactly. Wait, the people at the top aren't supposed to work hard? No one told me that.
They're supposed to work hard, but you know, a PA or a second AD is there at 4:30 a.m. when call time is, 6:30, and then they're there until long after people leave. So that's what I mean. A first AD, when they call wrap, they can get in their car and head home. Second AD, your second, some of your PAs who have been there 14 hours are still there working.
Yeah. So that's kind of why I like independent film, because we're a little more flexible on that. I've done union shoots both in Hollywood and as an independent filmmaker, but it does result in that sometimes, where you've got the people at the bottom who end up there 20 hours and you're just like, yikes.
You've been listening to Filmmaking Actually with Koura Linda, Space Dream Productions podcast. Subscribe to us on any or all the podcast platforms. If you like what you hear, leave us 5-star ratings and positive reviews on iTunes. It helps more listeners like you discover the show. But the best thing you can do if you really like the show is tell a friend. Want to leave a comment or ask a question? Email at filmmakingactually@gmail.com. This is Spacer speaking, and remember,
eyeline's off. The eyeline was off. Eyeliner is off. Continuity. Oh, I'm gonna 10-2 in my pants. When can I 10-1? I haven't peed in 10 hours. Don't blame me if the editor quits. We're doing how many alterations? I think I'm gonna try it differently this time.
and we'll see you next time.